Chapter 115, 114. Artisan 2. patrasteriskian.com/sekel11. Check out my patrasteriskian if you want to get a few chapters in advance. Check out my side work One Piece, Nemo's Golden Lottery http URL. Gilbert. What the hell? I screamed involuntarily when I saw that the person who had moved into Artisan's lair was Gilbert, a cowardly 12-year-old boy who nearly fell victim to an alien mushroom invasion. Who is there? Gilbert asked warily when he heard my voice. At the same time, his behavior was very different from what I remember. His voice was rougher, his eyes more piercing, and his body language said that he was ready to attack at any moment. Your worst nightmare, I said, appearing right in front of his face in the form of a ghost freak. Wanting to get answers to my questions as soon as possible, before Gilbert had time to do anything, I turned into an amphibian and shocked Gilbert with an electric shock to knock him out, as well as disable all the devices and gadgets that the guy carried with him. Then, I turned into Squid and began to test Gilbert's memory to find out all his secrets. So first of all, he really is Artisan and his real name is Gilbert. Gilbert Clive, to be precise. But everything else that I knew about him is complete nonsense. In fact, Gilbert is 22 years old and looks like a child due to a glitch in his genes due to the legacy of his alien father. Of course, I understand that Gilbert is far from handsome, but who would have thought that he was an adult dwarf pretending to be a child? Although, he's just a great actor. I didn't even suspect him of lying for a second. I saw in him only a cowardly boy who was horrified that alien mushrooms tried to eat him, which, in principle, is to be expected from a child who got into that situation. That's why I didn't even check his mind before, because I didn't see the point. For me, he was only an innocent victim, but not the culprit of the situation, who pretended to be the victim. Frankly, I'm discouraged. So, back to Gilbert's story. As I said, his father was an alien, so Gilbert is a half-blood. In principle, it is not surprising, because almost all the problems that arise on Earth are associated either with aliens or with their descendants. So here one should expect one of two things. Gilbert's father hails from the planet Tekadon, home to the weapon masters of Tekadon, a race of aliens who create advanced weapons that they sell to anyone who can afford the price. The associations with what Gilbert was doing are clearly visible, aren't they? The Tekadonians themselves appear as humanoid green-skinned aliens, with red eyes and black scara, and nasal cavities where their noses should be. The main feature of the Tekadons is their intelligence and engineering skills. Of course, in terms of intelligence, they are inferior to both the Galvans and the Cerebrocrustacean, but there is no other race in the universe that could better than the Tekadonians create weapons to destroy intelligent life forms. True masters of their craft, although their craft is bloody. And, how can you understand, Gilbert got his father's engineering genius, coupled with a large number of genetic diseases, because of which Gilbert cannot grow up. Gilbert's father only visited Earth once to sell weapons to the ubiquitous Forever Knights, and apparently he decided to have a one-night stand with an Earthwoman, which ended with Gilbert's appearance. Gilbert's mother died in his childbirth, and since then, he has been raised by his grandparents. This house belongs to them. But, unfortunately, they both died 6 months ago, and since then, Gilbert has been living alone. After the death of his guardians, Gilbert was able to find a letter left by his mother, from which he learned about his heritage and his father. It was this letter that caused Gilbert to follow in his father's footsteps and start inventing various gadgets and other useful devices that he began to sell to various criminal personalities. This lasted until the remnants of Vilgax's drones, who attacked the city near Mount Rushmore to lure me out, fell into Gilbert's hands. Later, he was also able to retrieve the remains of the Chimerian hammer, Vilgax's ship, which I thought was completely destroyed by the explosion, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Getting his hands on alien technology took Gilbert to a whole new level, and that's how the Artisan I know is born. As far as I can tell, Gilbert has some pretty serious psychological problems. At a minimum, he is a sociopath, unable to understand the emotions of the people around him, and at most, he is a complete psychopath, unable to feel positive emotions. It is most likely also caused by a gene disorder. Still, the chance of creating a successful hybrid of two different races is incredibly small. It is even surprising that all the half-bloods that I have met before did not have any health problems, but rather received the advantages of two races. Looks like Gilbert just got unlucky. Previously, the dangerous tendencies that Gilbert showed were always stopped by his grandparents, who even had to lock him in the basement so that he would not turn into a serial killer of some kind, because there were already signs of this. But, having received freedom, Gilbert sold out to the fullest and became obsessed with inventing and creating weapons. Gilbert was helped by his school friend, who was also not very healthy from a psychological point of view, but who managed to enter the local police. It was this guy who helped Gilbert sell his inventions on the black market. Thanks to the police database, this was not difficult to do. In the end, it turns out that Gilbert invented, his friend sold, and both of them were in the black. What can not be said about the people who suffered because of them? And what am I to do with you? I involuntarily asked as I finished reviewing Gilbert's memory. In a good way, it is necessary to hand over both Gilbert and his friend to the police, because what they did was far from being a joke. Due to Gilbert's mistake, an alien invasion almost happened once already. Who knows what he might do next? But I feel really sorry for this guy. It is not his fault that he was born like this, and it is unlikely that they will be able to help him in prison. Okay. I think I can help you. I have one idea. I turned to Gilbert, who was lying on the floor unconscious, and then added, but first, I need to destroy this place. First, I quickly hacked into Gilbert's computer using the virus and found all the most interesting information and blueprints for inventions. Whether it is not enough, it is useful. After I transferred all the data to my phone, lifting Gilbert on my shoulder, I turned into NRG and incinerated his lair using the alien's radiation abilities. This was enough to completely destroy everything here, so that no one can restore Gilbert's inventions. Morgana processed the data from Gilbert's computer and sent an anonymous message to the FBI about all buyers and those who received Gilbert's inventions. Also, send information about Gilbert's partner to the local police station so that he is immediately arrested. I ordered as I teleported back to the forest near Campo Pinnacan. As you wish. Well, now we can talk. I said, returning to my human form, not forgetting to put on my suit, and woke up Gilbert with a slap in the face. Arg. What? What's going on here? Where I am? Gilbert asked, waking up, starting to look around. Well, hello, artisan. I said, getting the boy's attention. You? How did you find me? Gilbert asked angrily, recognizing me at once. Do you think I wouldn't have found you? Especially after what you did here. I said threateningly. Still, I really like to intimidate villains. Now, I understand why Batman likes to do this. I knew something was wrong with that family. Did they guess that I was only pretending to be a member of the camp? Gilbert asked, keeping absolutely calm. In a similar situation, this is a sign of psychopathy. You can say that. I lied and again turned to the guy. You attracted my attention with your crafts. That's the way it should be. My creations are flawless and majestic. Much better than anything on this pathetic planet. Narcissistically, Artisan said. This, by the way, is also a sign of psychopathy. Flawless? Truth? I asked, pointing to the wreckage of his teleporter, which I had recently dug up. It's just a prototype. Gilbert said, ignoring his mistake. And why did you even create such a dangerous device, especially near the children's camp? I asked curiously, walking around the guy to add to the atmosphere. I was going to create a portal to Tekadon. Gilbert admitted. Decided to find your daddy? Who don't even need you? I asked with a sneer. What do you know? He is a great inventor. Once he knows what I have achieved, what I have created, he will be proud of me. Together we will create the greatest weapon in the universe. With madness in his eyes, Gilbert told me about his dreams. Your father, like all of his race, are mere merchants of death. And whatever you dream about, all these are pipe dreams and nonsense. Your father didn't give a damn about you, especially since he doesn't even know you exist. I said sternly, breaking all the guy's hopes. How dare you? Gilbert yelled angrily, pointing a laser weapon at me, which he pulled out of his pocket. Ignoring the weapon, I continued to break the guy's dreams. You are a fool. A frog at the bottom of a well, unaware of how big the world is. On Earth, your inventions may be considered impressive, but they are just pitiful toys in the scale of the universe. I will kill. I kill you, exclaimed Gilbert, pulling the trigger of his weapon. But nothing happened, because it was put out of action by an electric shock. By creating a couple of things that are only slightly above the level of the Earth, you have an idea of yourself, who knows what. Have you decided that with impunity you can create dangerous weapons and devices that can cause untold harm? Have you decided that you can play with the lives of innocents as you please? Did you think no one would stop you? Thought to avoid responsibility? Well, you were very wrong. I said menacingly, slowly approaching Gilbert. Stop. Don't come. Gilbert shouted, moving away from me, while pulling out another weapon from his arsenal, which also did not work. You will answer for all your sins, I said softly as I turned into a humangosaurus and swung to hit Gilbert. No. The guy screamed in fear, and after he just passed out and fell to the ground. Or maybe he didn't acting himself, I muttered, becoming a human again. Looks like Gilbert really is just a coward, and when I met him, he was really terrified of a fungus invasion he accidentally set up. Okay, let's go, I said, and grabbing Gilbert, he carried us to the cave. This whole conversation was necessary so that I could understand the real identity of Gilbert. Telepathy is fine, but I figured it would be best if I checked on Gilbert and see how he would handle a situation where his life was in danger. Usually, it is at such a moment that a person drops all masks and appears in a reliable guise. From what I saw, it can be understood that Gilbert is distinguished by a lonely man, whose relatives had his great ancestors who acquired him. He has serious health and mental problems and was most likely bullied at school due to his differences. For him, the craft became an outlet, thanks to the fact that he could forget his problems and difficulties, and because he could find a connection with his unknown father. It was to feel this connection that Gilbert decided to create weapons and sell them in order to become even more like his father. I think that his partner, who wanted to cash in on the guy's talent, also manipulated him to his advantage. All this was the reason for the appearance of Artisan, and also why Gilbert wanted to find a way to take it on. Although, this certainly does not justify his actions, but you can also understand the guy. So I decided to give Gilbert a chance at a normal life. That, at least, is what he deserves. Do you want to cure him too? Morgana asked as I created a new cryo capsules for Gilbert. For a while, he will stay in it, along with the circus freak trio. Yes. And I think the answer to how to do this lies in the Mr. Hyde formula, I replied, putting Gilbert into cryo-sleep. Since Gilbert's main problems lie in his damaged DNA caused by his alien father's legacy, I think a serum capable of making a person half-alien could help here. If I study the composition and action of the formula, I'm sure that I can create its antipode, which will be able to erase the alien heritage from the blood of the test subject, turning him into a simple person. It seems to me that this is exactly what should help Gilbert. How are our other projects? I asked, adding a drop of Gilbert's blood to the analyzer to find out about all his illnesses. I examined the DNA of 48 aliens, and in all of them, I was able to find signs of the alpha gene. The circus freak trio's healing has stalled until you find the cause of their mutations, and Mr. Hyde's formula is 38% researched. Morgana replied, flashing all the data on the monitor. Great, you're great. I can't even imagine what I would have done without your help, I said sincerely, looking at the test results. Without me, you wouldn't have achieved anything, Morgana said jokingly, turning up her nose. Maybe you're right. Okay, then research that as well. I said as I took out the eyelash of the giant eye that I took from the eternal nights. Find out where she could have come from the nights. I added, putting the eyelash into the analyzer. H. Received. So, the formula is being investigated, as is Gilbert's DNA and the eyelash. Hope will help me examine the diadema and other artifacts, and I will present the hand of Tzolk'lu to Zach at our next meeting. I will leave the exploration of the star to the future, when my ship is ready. Looks like I didn't forget anything. I murmured thoughtfully, remembering my to-do list. I think it's time for me. Gwen and Hope are already waiting for me. When the result is ready, let me know. I said in the end and returned to Hex Castle. Good luck. I heard Morgana say goodbye at the last moment. Chapter 116, 115. Pages. patrasteriskian.com/sekil11. Check out my Patrasteriskian if you want to get a few chapters in advance. Check out my side work One Piece, Nemo's Golden Lottery http URL. Are you done? I asked, as soon as I was in Hex's room, where Hope, with Gwen's help, was preparing her potion. Nearly. The last ingredient left. Hope said as she tossed gold dust of unknown origin into the boiling cauldron. Once in a boiling mess with incomprehensible contents, the pollen caused a violent reaction, which ended in a small explosion, and the contents of the cauldron changed its appearance from green slurry to clear water, which you wouldn't even think of as some kind of alchemical masterpiece. Now it's ready. We can start translating. Hope said contentedly as she pulled 3 completely black pages from her magical purse, with blood-red text written on them in an unknown language. Where did you find these pages? They look pretty creepy. Gwen asked, commenting on the torn pages. I found them in one of the ancient books that my uncle managed to take from Legerdemain's royal library before he fled to Earth. Hope replied. Can I see it? I asked, feeling something familiar from these pages. Certainly. Hope said with a smile. Handing me the pages, and then asked, do you feel it too? Something dark, but elusive, trying to hide, but at the same time penetrate the mind. Similar to the shadow. Yes, I feel it. I replied, feeling exactly what Hope described. Although, I also knew that I had felt like this before, and more recently, from a specific person and a specific object, but much stronger. What are you speaking about? I don't feel anything like that. For me, it's just old and ugly pages. Gwen shared, overhearing our conversation with Hope. Maybe you're just not as sensitive to things like Lex and me, because you still haven't fully revealed your gift and potential. Hope suggested. I think you're just not used to your magical powers and still can't sense things invisible to ordinary senses. Gwen, just be patient and soon you will be able to learn it. Moreover, you have a teacher. I said from my own experience. Since you say so. Gwen replied, clearly annoyed that she couldn't do what Hope and I could. Do you know where those pages might have come from? Or how did they get into that book? I turned to Hope, continuing to scan the pages and already understanding where I felt like this. Not. It seems to me that my uncle did not even know that these pages were in the book, since he hardly opened it, given that the history of Legerdemain was described there, which interested him little. So, it remains unknown who put the pages in the book and why. It is possible that they have been in it for several centuries. Hope said. I uttered, thinking over the girl's words. Do you know something? Gwen asked when she saw my thoughtful face. I can guess what race these pages are associated with. Look, Hope, that's exactly what I wanted to ask you to investigate. Do you feel? I said as I took out the Uberman diadem and showed it to Hope. The same feeling. Only stronger. Hope answered, picking up the diadem. So it didn't seem to me. These pages have some connection with the Umbermans. What if, I said, and then I decided to bring my idea to life. As soon as I turned into Cloak, the pages and diadem reacted violently as they sensed umbrament nearby. Deep black smoke billowed from both the diadem and the pages, more like animated shadows that were reaching out to me, as if they wanted to be as close as possible to me. "Try to read the pages, maybe you can do it," Hope suggested, stepping away from me and dropping the diadem on the floor, since it was impossible to hold it properly. Following Hope's advice, I looked at the pages and noticed that the text on them had changed, the symbols written in blood had moved, as if the previous text was just a trick, and now the real contents of these pages appeared, which, to my deepest regret, I could not understand. Although the Omnitrix provides a universal translator function, this does not mean that I can read in an unfamiliar language. It's a pity. Does not work. The text has changed, but I still can't understand its meaning. I said. I think there was a concealment spell on the pages that you broke by turning into this alien. Luckily you have it. Hope said. Yes, good luck. With a smirk on my shadowy face, I said, noticing the irony. Still, my best acquisition was the charm of luck. No Omnitrix cannot be compared with the ability to bend luck as your own. I will do without being rude. Try wearing a diadem. Maybe that will work. Gwen suggested a good idea. Silently pulling the diadem towards me with my telekinesis, I tried to put the umbrament headdress on my head, but I couldn't. Before the diadem touched my shadowy hair, the stream of black smoke coming out of the jewelry increased dramatically and the diadem just flew out of my hands, clearly resisting such a possibility. Looks like she's against it. Gwen pointed out the obvious as she watched the diadem land on the floor 10 meters away from me. I don't understand anything, Hope said with a frown. Maybe the answer is in these pages? No wonder they reacted that way. Will your potion be able to translate text from them? I asked, returning to human form. Yes, I'm sure. I made it because the translation spell I used earlier couldn't handle the pages and I needed something more powerful. Although, I may have been thwarted by the magical protection you removed. But, in any case, it is better to use a potion, it is more effective. Now, I even wonder what is hidden in these pages. Hope said. Should I just throw the pages into the cauldron? I asked, pointing to the pages that I still held in my hand and from which black smoke ceased to fall as soon as I became a human. Yes. They should soak in it for several days, after which the text will change into a language that is understandable to us. Hope said. So long? Gwen asked indignantly, who now also wanted to solve the riddle of pages and diadem. Efficiency comes at the price of time. Hope said with a shrug, and then added, but, this is a 100% translation method, without any errors. Can you give me the recipe for this potion later? I asked, thinking that I might need a way to translate an unknown language. Certainly. Hope said with a smile as she watched me drop all 3 pages into a cauldron of clear liquid after her reply. Is it supposed to be like that? Gwen asked as she saw the contents of the cauldron turn black, bubbling intensely. Yes. When the liquid becomes clear again, the translation is ready. Ashley said as she put the lid on the cauldron. Now, all we have to do is wait. I said. Then, I'll examine those artifacts of yours and the diadem for now. Hope said, holding up the diadem. Here you are. I said, handing over the 2 artifacts that I had borrowed forever from the Forever Knights. What is it? Gwen asked as she watched me hand Hope a piece of cloth that for some reason had the hardness of a diamond and a golden orb encrusted with purple crystals. That's the thing, I don't know. That's why I need help. I said honestly. Don't worry, I'll find out their purpose. Hope promised. Come on tomorrow. It's late and it's time for us to sleep. Grandpa won't like it if we don't get enough sleep. I said, noticing that it was almost 1 a.m. All right, whatever you say. Hope said a little displeasedly, but at the same time she clearly liked my concern. Leaving the cauldron in place, we went down to the 2nd floor and dispersed to our rooms. At the same time, Gwen made sure that Hope and I went into different rooms until the very end. As soon as I climbed into my bed, I immediately fell into a sweet dream. Too many impressions for one day. July 21st, 2010. Knock 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 asterisk. Who's there? I asked sleepily, hearing a knock on the door, trying hard to open my eyes. It's me. Wake up, Lex. We urgently need to get on the road. I heard Max's serious voice. Something happened? I asked, still trying to drive away the remnants of sleep. I was contacted by an old friend who served with me in the plumbers. Someone attacked his village and he asked for my help. Max said quickly. Okay, I'll be right there. Give me 5 minutes to get ready. I said. Looks like it's time to meet the Kai of this world. Okay. I'll wake up the girls then. Max said in the end and went to another room. He laughed? Hope asked, crawling out from under the covers. Yes, you don't have to worry, he didn't understand that I wasn't alone. I said with a smile to a naked girl who crept into my room at night and with whom we did various very indecent things. Whoa! It's good. It would be most embarrassing if he caught us naked. Hope said with relief, not covering her nakedness. If you didn't want it, then you shouldn't have sneaked up on me. I said with a smirk, hugging the girl. As if you were against my coming. Pounced on me like a hungry animal and tortured me for several hours, not letting me sleep. Hope complained, punching me in the ribs. Ha! Okay, let's get ready, we still need to take a shower. I said, getting out of bed and ignoring Hope's words. Wait for me. We can take a shower together. I don't think Mr. Tennyson would be angry if you were 15 minutes late. Hope said, jumping out of bed, flashing her bare booty. 30 minutes. I said, admiring the view on my way to the shower. Are you sure you don't want to come with us? Grandpa asked Hope as we packed up and prepared to leave. No, Mr. Tennyson. I still have things to do at the castle. Hope said with a smile, stroking Nebula, who had just woken up from familiar ritual. As you know. But, no, this offer remains in force. You can join our journey at any time. Max said with a friendly smile. Thanks you, Mr. Tennyson. I'm very pleased. I will gladly join you in the future. Hope said happily. You can just call me Grandpa. Max said sincerely. Hope said after a little hesitation, looking at me. But seeing my nod of encouragement, Hope smiled and said to Max, Okay, Grandpa. Well, that's good. Grandpa said with a smile, heading to the driver's seat. Thanks for the books. Gwen thanked her, mentioning the 24 books on magic that Hope had given her for general development, and then went to take her seat on the bus. I'm sorry she's acting like this. Ashley said awkwardly. Nothing, I understand everything. Hope said sincerely. I enjoyed spending time with you. I hope we can get to know each other better. Bye. Ashley said goodbye, also entering the bus. I will visit you in a few days. I said, kissing Hope on the lips, under the gaze of Gwen and Ashley. I'll miss. Hope said, kissing back and handing me Nebula, who didn't resist Hope's caresses. Apparently, my fastidious tigress liked Hope. I also love you. I finally said as I got on the bus. I love you too. Hope said with a little wave goodbye before walking back to the castle. So where are we going? Ashley asked as I closed the RV door. We need to go to the Navajo Indian Reservation in New Mexico. After retiring, Wes became the head of his native village, located in the desert. Well, according to Wes, they were attacked by a werewolf from Navajo legend. Max said. Werewolf? Gwen asked doubtfully. I know how it sounds, but Wes is sure that this werewolf wants to destroy their village, so he asked me for help. I don't think the werewolf fight will stand out too much compared to our usual adventures. Grandpa said. If the situation is so dangerous, then why don't I move us to New Mexico right away? I suggested, realizing that we seemed to be late for Loboan's first appearance. Yes, I think it would be best if we get there as quickly as possible. Max thought for a moment. Okay, then hold on. I said and enveloped the entire RV in a magical sphere, after which I activated the infinity tattoo, moving us to the place where Grandfather indicated. The scenery outside the window changed to the desert of red stone, familiar to Arizona, next to which we found ourselves. Before Grandpa could start the bus and head towards the Navajo village that was visible on the horizon, Ashley exclaimed, pointing to the sky. Look! Familiar airship. Looks like the Saturdays have arrived here as well. Apparently, they found out about the werewolf. Gwen said, immediately recognizing the orange airship belonging to the Saturday family. And well, I think a werewolf is just right for their specialty. I said, glad that I had the chance to give Zach the hand of Tzolk'al so quickly. Then let's go meet them, Max said as he drove us to the Navajo village. Chapter 117, 116. The Yenaldushi. padrasteriskien.com/sekal11. Check out my Padrasteriskien if you want to get a few chapters in advance. Check out my side work One Piece, Nemo's Golden Lottery http URL. Lex! Shouted Zach enthusiastically as we reached the Navajo village, and I went out to meet the Saturday family, who had already landed their airship. Hey, Zach. Hello to you too, Fisk. I said with a smile, approaching Zach Saturday, whom we had not seen for only a week, and Fiskerton, who was behind his brother. What are you doing here? Zach asked curiously. Grandpa's old friend lives here. He asked us for help. I said quickly, finally noticing Komodo, who was sleeping in the sun. Is it because of the werewolf? Zach asked as I shook hands with Fiskerton. So we were told, yes. I said with a smile. Are you here because of these rumors too? Grandfather asked, coming up to us with the girls. These are not rumors. It's all pretty serious. There was an attack yesterday. And you can see the result yourself. Let's go to Mom and Dad. They went to meet with the head of the village to find out what happened. Zach said seriously, pointing to a village that had clearly survived a major flood, which doesn't fit with the desert we're in right now. The ground was wet, there were large puddles everywhere, and everywhere you could see the remains of destroyed stalls and goods that used to be sold in them. At least all the buildings remained intact, although the foundations were clearly wet. The village itself was already deserted, and there was no one to be seen nearby. It seems that all residents and tourists in fear for their lives left this place. Max! Shouted an elderly man of 60 years old, with all the signs of a Navajo Indian, who ran to meet us. Behind him could see Drew and Doc, who were also walking towards us and were obviously glad to see us. Wes! What happened here? Grandpa immediately asked his old friend, with whom he had previously worked together as plumbers. If I'm not mistaken, Wes is one of the few employees of the Earth branch who was invited to work as a plumber in the main branch of the galaxy, after the branch on Earth was closed. If you remember Phil and what he has come to, then Wes is definitely trustworthy. Yenaldushi. It was Yenaldushi. He attacked last night. Coming closer to us, said a breathless Wes, who outwardly looked very tired and dirty. He had a tough night. Calm down, Wes. Breathe deeply. You mean the werewolf you told me about on the phone? Grandfather asked, trying to understand the whole situation. Yes. It is he. I saw him myself yesterday. It is because of him that the village looks like this now. Mr. Green said, taking a breath. Yenaldushi or Yenaldushi come from the legends of Indian mythology. From the Navajo language, this translates as one who wears the skin. They are also known as skinwalkers. According to legend, these are people who use forbidden rituals to transform themselves into any animal at will, using the skin of an animal. Some sources say that a witch must kill a member of her own family in order to gain the power of a skinwalker. Skinwalkers take pleasure in inflicting pain and terror. They take the form of an animal to kill, maim, steal, and destroy. Sometimes they break into houses and ruin the inhabitants. Other times they just play by banging on walls and windows or climbing onto rooftops. And by the way, nice to see you again. Drew took the floor, showing her knowledge in the field of mythologies of different cultures of the world. That's right. Last night, when my granddaughter, Kai, performed the ritual dance of my people, suddenly the sky was covered with black clouds, it suddenly began to rain, and purple lightning began to strike the ground, from one of which Yenaldushi himself appeared. He looked exactly like the legends describe him. A large wolf walking on two legs, with glowing purple eyes and uttering a creepy, drawn-out howl, Wes said convulsively, apparently still not used to the idea that he had met a living legend. Lex, Ashley said softly as she heard the familiar name from Wes. I know. Looks like it's time for us to get to know her. I said softly, making sure only Ashley could hear me. What are you speaking about? Gwen asked, still hearing us. It's the same Kai. Which I told you about. Ben's 10000 girlfriend, only from our world. Ashley said softly. Oh yes, I remember. And where is she? Gwen replied with a reasonable question. We'll find out now. I said, and listened to Wes tell the story as he finally finished describing Yenaldushi's horror. After Yenaldushi appeared, the lightning disappeared, but a terrible flood appeared, which began to sweep away everything in its path. You yourself see the consequences of all this, said Mr. Green, pointing to the dilapidated village. Where did Yenaldushi go? Asked Doc, who was also interested in knowing all the information. I do not know. He simply disappeared, having previously taken away the satellite dish. Wes replied, pointing to the empty pole where the antenna used to be. And why does he need him? Zach asked, clearly finding it strange that a werewolf from Navajo legend would require a highly technical device. I don't know, and I don't care. Yenaldushi has brought trouble to my lands and must be stopped before he does anything else. Wes said angrily. I will help you. Don't worry, we can stop him. With support in his voice, said grandfather, putting his hand on the shoulder of his tired friend. Thanks. Exhaling tiredly, Wes said gratefully. Sorry. You talked about your granddaughter, but where is she? Ashley asked, unable to contain herself, who really wanted to get to know the version of Kai from our world. She, Wes said painfully, rubbing the tears in his eyes. Wes, what happened to Kai? She is alive? Max asked uneasily as Ashley and I held our breath for an answer. She is alive, but she suffered during the flood. When the flow of water appeared, we passed each other so that she could find cover while I helped other people. When it was over, I found her unconscious on the street. It looks like the current swept her away and she swallowed water. Max, she still hasn't woken up. I'm afraid that Kai, Wes said with fear and pain. Don't worry, Wes. Everything will be fine with her. She is a strong girl. Hugging a friend who was on the verge of tears, Max said, and then looked at me, sending a message. I understood. I'll do everything now. I said calmly, understanding my grandfather's request. Instantly transforming into an XLR-8, I raced off in search of Kai, who I found on the edge of town, in one of the buildings that hadn't been damaged at all by the flood. Climbing up to the second floor, I found a 16-year-old beautiful girl, with caramel skin and black hair, who was lying unconscious on the bed, within 4 connected. It looks like Kai has also been affected by the changes that I wished for Elsa, and she, like me, Gwen and Ashley, was born 5 years earlier than in the world of Prime. And it looks like she nearly drowned because I wasn't there to save her, like it happened in canon. To be honest, I got pretty scared when I found out that Kai almost died because of the changes I made to the timeline with my presence. It seems that the world decided to remind me that everything is not always under control and every action has its own reaction. In this case, it nearly ended with Kai's death. Although, I thought that there was a possibility that the wolf did not appear, since I finally and irrevocably sealed Z's scare, but it seems that this nimble ghost still managed to contact his subordinates, one of which is this alleged Yenel Dushi, and ordered them to continue the plan to darken the earth. In principle, it was not worth expecting anything else from this ectonorite, who always manages to mess up. I'll deal with Z's scare's subordinates, but for now Kai is the main thing. Fortunately, this time everything worked out and Kai will recover, especially with my help, but this is a good lesson for me. It's not worth it to be the real world, and the lives of real people are at stake. Having turned into Dr. Fatty, I, on the floor creaking from my weight, went closer to the Kai and began to treat all her illnesses, with the help of the targeted help of the healing energy of this alien. After a couple of minutes, the target force did its job, and the girl began to make awakening sounds. I immediately turned into a man, so as not to be afraid of my alien appearance. I began to observe her, checking everything for sure if everything was in order. After all, a persistent stay without air can result in very dangerous and irreversible consequences for the brain. Where I am? Opening her eyes, Kai chose, noticing an unfamiliar ceiling. Good morning, beauty. With a benevolent invitation, I greeted her, trying not to scare the girl. Hearing my voice, Kai quickly turned his head in my direction, and carefully looking at me, chose without the slightest hesitation, "Are you an angel? Am I still dead?" Ha ha ha. No, of course not. I like this comparison, but I'm not an angel and you're not dead. We are still in your village, I said laughing. I'm already starting to like this lively girl. Then who are you? Ah, Grandpa, Kai asked, and then, remembering her grandfather, she tried to jump out of bed. Hush hush. You shouldn't move so fast. Wes is fine, he's with my grandpa Max right now. And my name is Lex Tennyson, and I helped you get over what happened yesterday, I said quickly, trying to calm Kai. After yesterday? Ah. I remembered. That dire wolf came out of nowhere and started a flood. Because I choked and drowned, Kai said with fear, stopping her attempts to move. That's how it was, but now everything is fine with you. Do not worry. I hugged the girl and said sympathetically as I started stroking Kai's back to calm her down. What happened yesterday? And what about that wolf? Overcame fear, asked Kai, not even trying to escape from my embrace. I'm starting to like her more and more. When it was all over, the wolf was gone. Our grandfathers are old friends and served together, so Wes called us for help to help him find that monster. Plus, a family of cryptozoologists has arrived here who are well versed in such things, I said, reluctantly releasing the girl who had already come to her senses. Served? But my grandfather, until his retirement, was an ordinary historian in the museum. I have never heard of him serving in any army, Kai said with a frown. Oh. So you don't know? Oh, those old people with their eternal secrets, I said displeasedly, rubbing the bridge of my nose. For some reason, I was sure that Kai knew everything. But it probably isn't. Well, it's easy for Wes to take the rap for it anyway, and it's not my problem. What are you talking about? Kai asked, her curiosity clearly piqued, and she learned the secret. Your grandfather will tell you everything. And it is expected that he is probably worried, I said, reaching out my hand to help her up. It's all kind of suspicious, Kai said, accepting my help without any problem. As soon as Kai got to her feet, and I was sure that there were no more problems with her health, Fiskerton burst into the room, who immediately began to purr. More mumro, rumrimru. Lex, there you are. Come on, something's happened. Triple A. This is he. Monster. Kai yelled as she hid behind me. I'm not a monster. Fisk purred sadly when he heard what was it called. He used to be hunted and people thought he was a monster, so it's no wonder he got upset. Kai, calm down. He's not a monster, he's Fisk. And he's a cryptid, and a harmless one at that. Look carefully, Fisk is more like a cat, but yesterday there was a wolf. I quickly explained, noticing Kai's overly strong reaction. It seems that yesterday's incident still left a mark on the girl. Well, no wonder, after all, she almost died, and the humanoid wolf was to blame for this. Perhaps now she will have a hidden fear of wolves, and of course, of water. You have to see how it all turned out. You're right, he doesn't look like a wolf. But who is he and what is he doing here? What does cryptid mean? Having regained courage, said Kai, carefully examining Fisk. It's a long story, but trust me, he's not dangerous. And even vice versa. Fisk is a very nice guy. And he came to the rescue, along with the cryptozoologists, whom I am talking about. He is their adopted son. You cannot be afraid of him, he is smart as a person, and at the same time very kind. And you too, Fisk, do not be offended by Kai, she has not yet departed from yesterday and did not want to call you a monster. I reassured Kai, and then Fisk. Uma. Okie, Fisk murmured, turning into a good mood. Sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. Kai sincerely apologized, starting to examine Fisk with great interest. It looks like she even started to like him. Mao. It's okay. Fiskerton rumbled magnanimously, waving his paw. Once everything is resolved, let's get back to the topic. What did you want to tell me, Fisk? I asked seriously. Aum. Maramrar Yenaldushi. Oh right. Let's go quickly, Yenaldushi is back. Fisk purred quickly, urging me on. Not a moment of peace. Chapter 118, 117. The Hand of Tsul Kalu. patrasteriskian.com/sekal11. Check out my Patrasteriskian if you want to get a few chapters in advance. Check out my side work One Piece, Nemo's Golden Lottery http URL. Kai! Shouted Mr. Green, joyfully and at the same time with relief, when he noticed me, Kai and Fisk walking in his direction. He was alone, it looks like the others split up to find us. Grandpa! Kai exclaimed joyfully, throwing herself into the arms of her, as it turned out, the only living relative. I'm so glad you're alright. Forgive me. Wes said, making sure that everything was in order with his granddaughter, crying with happiness. It's okay, it's not your fault, grandfather. I'm alright. I am healthy. Kai said, trying to calm Wes down. Thanks. If not for your help, I could have lost my only granddaughter. Thank you very much. Wes thanked me, already turning to me, wiping away tears of happiness. My pleasure. I simply said as I watched the Green family with a smile. Urara. What a blessing, it all ended well. Fisk purred, crying from watching the reunion scene between granddaughter and grandfather. How sensitive he is. Hold on. I said, handing Fisk a handkerchief so that he could dry himself off and not embarrass himself again. Umaru. Thanks. FRRRV Fisk thanked me and blew his nose into a handkerchief that now belongs to him, apparently. Lex, Fisk, there you are. Came the voice of Doc, who ran out of one of the lanes of the village. Doc, what happened there? Fisk said that Werewolf was back. I turned to him, leaving the Green family and their reunion behind. Shortly after you left, we heard a terrible noise from the entrance to the city. Having gone to see what was happening there, we saw the same Yenaldushi, an anthropomorphic wolf. He stole satellite dishes and other equipment again, right off the roof of your bus. Doc explained in detail. Wow. Grandpa must be very angry right now. I said, wincing, knowing my grandfather's love for his RV. It's not the word. We couldn't stop him from trying to go hunting this wolf alone. Doc said with a smile, who understood Grandpa very well, because he himself would have done the same if his airship had been attacked. Did the werewolf do anything else? I inquired. Not. Having taken the equipment, he simply disappeared. At least I managed to take a picture of it. And I must say, he is a very unusual cryptid. I haven't come across these yet. Doc answered, showing me his PDA, on which one could see a fuzzy picture of a typical representative of the Loboan race, which I finally decided to tell in order to dispel all speculation. It's not a cryptid. And certainly not the Yenaldushi of Navajo legends. This is Loboan. This is such a race of aliens from the Luna Lobo, a satellite of the planet Anertransil. I said. Are you sure? Doc asked doubtfully. At 100%. I recently dealt with an alien from the Aner system, just from the planet Anertransil, so I studied all the aliens that live in that solar system. I said, finding an excuse for my knowledge. Aner system? After all, it is closed to the public and is considered a forbidden zone of dark space. The plumbers have no jurisdiction there and try to stay out of there, as the system is surrounded by bad rumors and scary stories. Said Wes, who approached Doc and me when he was convinced that Kai was in good shape. Everything is just like that. I had to work very hard to find out about the inhabitants of this system and what is happening there now. Due to the closed nature of the system, you didn't know that this werewolf was an alien and thought it was Yenaldushi. I replied. That's quite a possibility. But there is still a chance that this is Yenaldushi. It is not for nothing that he appeared on our land. And it fits our legends too much. Wes said a little stubbornly, not wanting to give up his theory. Rolling my eyes at Wes' stubbornness, I said, anyway, we need to find that wolf and stop him. He obviously has some kind of plan. It's not for nothing that he steals satellite dishes. That's right, and I don't think this werewolf's plan bode well. Doc said seriously. Then let's go find the others and go hunting. I suggested. Great, Wes said cheerfully, clearly wanting to repay the Yenaldushi for the damage he had caused, but Kai stopped him. Grandpa, what are you talking about? And who are these plumbers? Grandpa, are you hiding something from me? Kai asked suspiciously, stubbornly wanting to know the whole truth. It seems that stubbornness is their family trait. Wes looked at Doc and me with a pleading look in his eyes, obviously asking for help, but we ignored him. Let him deal with the mess that he himself made. It was not necessary, they are dragging the truth for so long. Okay, then you will have a heart-to-heart talk, while we will find the others and begin preparations. I said mercilessly and walked towards my family and the Saturday family, who had already gathered at the airship. Good luck, Mr. Green. Doc said, with a small smile, obviously not wanting to get involved in the family showdown that will now begin here, and followed me. Only Fisk wanted to help out of the kindness of his heart, but he was of little use in this matter, so he followed us. When we got to the place where Doc parked his airship, we saw Grandpa, who was completely hung with high-tech alien weapons, and Drew, who was trying to convince Max of something. Gwen, Ashley, Zach and Komodo just watched this show with interest, a little off to the side. Max, you can't take all these weapons. It's too dangerous. Drew said sternly, taking the laser net gun away from Grandfather. It was the werewolf who mutilated my bus. I will not leave a wet place from him. Grandfather said harshly, pulling another net gun from his magic bag. Max, don't be crazy. It's just a bus. Drew said wearily, taking this net gun as well. It's not just a bus, it's my favorite RV. This is my home and my castle. Plus, the wolf stole the new carburetor Ashley gave me. This I can never forgive. Grandfather said soulfully. At the end of the phrase he became angry again, taking out a flamethrower this time. And where did he get such an arsenal with him? When did he have time to fill his bag with weapons? Grandpa, stop breaking comedy. Come on, the sooner we go looking for the wolf, the sooner we get all the equipment back and I can fix the bus. I said with a sigh, still amazed at how much my grandfather's behavior changes when it comes to his precious RV. Okay. Max said displeasedly, removing all the weapons. Like a child, honestly. And this man scolded me for taking too many risks and not thinking about my actions. Lex found out that this wolf is an alien from another planet, so the situation is not our part. Doc said, walking up to his wife. But we can still help find him, right? It's not just that we came here. Drew asked as she hugged her husband. I don't think our help is needed. Doc said, looking at me. I don't mind if you're the sender with us. In any case, Mr. Green will want to catch Loboan, so at least keep an eye on him so that he does not do stupid things in a fit of anger. I replied, already convinced of Wes's stubbornness and how he wants to take revenge on the alien for causing problems. Yes, let's catch this werewolf. It will be so cool. Zach exclaimed enthusiastically, looking forward to the hunt. Although, of course, he was immediately broken off. No, Zach. It's too dangerous and you'll stay here. Drew ordered, as befits a stern mother. But I also want to go hunting. It's not fair that you leave me. Zach said frustratedly, already plotting how to come with us, even if it was a secret from his parents. Not wanting him to cause problems, and God forbid he was captured by Loboan, anything can happen, I decided to distract him, and at the same time give him a gift. Zach, you should stay here with the girls. I said, interrupting Ashley's indignation with a glance, who also wanted to go hunting. But Zach got even more upset when I didn't support him. If you don't act up, you will get this. I said with a smile as I took out the hand of Tsul'kalu'. What is it? Zach asked curiously as his eyes and the claw itself flared orange. It is the claw of the Thunderbird that Tsul'kalu' killed. He turned it into an artifact that helps focus inner powers. He should help you with your cryptid control abilities. I said, throwing a claw to Zach. The same Tsul'kalu'? Drew asked after hearing my words. Yes. I recently helped him and in gratitude he gave me one of his hands. I thought she was perfect for Zach. I replied. According to the legends, the hand of Tsul'kalu' is a very powerful ritual artifact, so I think you're right. She must help Zach control his power. Drew said thoughtfully. I feel. It is much easier for me to concentrate and use my abilities. Zach said with delight as his eyes shone even brighter. Well, that's good. Stay here and train. The girls will look after you. It is so? I said, looking sternly at Ashley and Gwen. I want not to take them with me, firstly, because there are already so many of us. And secondly, I want to do everything quietly and catch Loboan before he activates the machine that he is building. Girls aren't very good at hiding. Still, their abilities are too bright. Wes, from a discovered location, learning the tricks of the hunt and knows how to be quiet and discreet, so he won't get in the way. To be honest, I just don't remember exactly what Loboan is building. It appears to be some kind of transmitter, but I don't remember its purpose, or how it fits in with ZS scare plan to darken the earth. I don't want to take another risk and I don't want to make the mistake of being too relaxed again. Still, there is a chance that the Ectonurites will take over the earth, as they did with their home system. It's best if I deal with Loboan quickly and quietly. In addition, I want to make sure that ZS Scare's plan continues, but is completely under my control, so that I can get all the bonuses. It's time to move to another level and start manipulating the villains rather than let them exist without my supervision. Okay, we'll stay. Ashley said displeasedly, who really wanted to see a werewolf, albeit an alien. As you say. Gwen said, but she didn't really want to come with us, as there were still books on magic waiting for her, which she could not wait to study. At the same time, you can get to know Kai better and help her recover from what happened. Although she holds herself well, she will not be hindered by support and the opportunity to speak out. Ah, here they are. I said, noticing that Wes and Kai were walking in our direction. Did you talk? I asked as Kai approached me. Yes, Grandpa told me everything. I can't believe he hid from me the existence of aliens and the fact that he worked in the intergalactic police for 40 years. Kai said displeasedly, giving Wes a disapproving look. It was necessary. I just wanted to keep you safe. Wes tried to justify himself, but it didn't help. P.F. Revealingly turning away from her grandfather, Kai published, ceasing to look at him. Mr. Green said doomedly, lowering his head in defeat. Teenagers. They are. Don't worry, everything will be fine. With time. Max supported his friend, patting him on the shoulder. Kai, this is Gwen and Ashley. And that boy with the glowing eyes, Zach, is the son of Doc and Drew, whom I have already spoken about. And this is Komodo, another cryptid who lives with them. And of course, this is Max Tennyson, my grandfather. I immediately introduced everyone who was here and with whom Kai was not familiar. Nice to meet you all. My name is Kai Green. Kai said politely, introducing herself. Hey. Hi. We are also pleased to meet such a polite girl. Ksha. You've grown so much, Kai. The last time I saw you, you were just a baby. Ashley, Gwen, Drew, Komodo and Max greeted the girl in turn. Zach was too busy with his new toy to even pay attention to us. It's time for us to go, I said when everyone greeted Kai. That's right, it's time for us to catch Yenaldushi. Kai, you stay here. Wes said as he pointedly loaded a shotgun he had taken from somewhere. Grandpa, I'm already an adult. Kai exclaimed indignantly, and the third round of persuasion of disobedient children began. Then let me, Lex, Doc, Drew, Wes and Fisk go hunting. Grandpa said, ignoring the Green family's argument. Go without me, I'll stay to keep an eye on everyone. Drew said, worried about Zach, who might mess with his new weapon. At the very least, it might have crossed his mind to go to the desert to find the cryptid and see how his abilities work with the hand of Tzolkalu. Okay. Then Gwen, Ashley, Kai, Zach and Komodo, you'll stay here and Drew will look after you. Grandpa said, accepting no objections and ending the demand between Wes and Kai. We can take my truck. Doc suggested, pointing to the car that was in his airship. Usually Saturday use it when they go on expeditions on the ground. Okay, let's go. Wes said, fully prepared to start hunting poor Loboan. The whole detachment, which for some reason I decided to take with me, although I could deal with the problem myself in a second, went to the truck, which Doc quickly took out of the aircraft. I guess I just don't want them to feel worthless. In addition, this is a good chance to spend time in a mail company, for a traditionally male occupation. I miss something like this. Don't worry, I'll look after them. I promised Kai and Drew, and then I went to the car myself. It's time to start hunting for Loboan, who clearly does not expect such a powerful squad to follow his head. Well, at least not suicidal. Chapter 119, 118. Loboan. patrasteriskian.com/sekel11. Check out my Patrasteriskian if you want to get a few chapters in advance. Check out my side work One Piece, Nemo's Golden Lottery http URL. Do you even have a plan to find the wolf? I asked Wes, who was pointing the way for Doc, who was driving his truck into the desert. Here, look carefully. On the road, you can see traces that clearly belong to the wolf, but at the same time, he moved on two paws. Also, over there, if you look closely, you can see crushed bushes and broken branches. It's definitely Yenaldushi. Wes said confidently, pointing at the barely visible footprints. Frankly, it's amazing that Mr. Green noticed them. It looks like the wolf moved at high speed and in big jumps, so it left a rare trail. At the same time, we ourselves were driving at a decent speed, but Wes's eyes still managed to notice them. That's what professional means. Way! Marvelous! Fisk exclaimed, sitting next to me. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who was impressed by Wes' skills. It reminds me of when you and I were looking for Yeti in the Himalayas. At that time, your tracker skills were also invaluable. Max said with nostalgia in his voice. You're right. It was a long time ago. With the same tone, Wes answered, while continuing to look for the path that the wolf took. Looks like we're there. said Grandfather when we saw a large crevice on the horizon leading to a narrow canyon, where, apparently, Loboan jumped. Looks like we'll have to leave the car, Doc said, and as we pulled up to the crevasse, he stopped the truck and we all got out of it. There are 20 meters for sure, Max said, looking inside the crevice and measuring the distance to the ground. It's good that I took the climbing equipment. True, it is only enough for 2. Wes said, pulling a rope and 2 pairs of harnesses from his backpack. I'll go down without insurance. And Fisk can jump himself. I think Lex will do without equipment, Doc said, letting the 2 grandfathers use the equipment. Are you sure? Wes asked doubtfully, because he still does not know about my features. And Doc is much stronger than an ordinary person. I think a jump from a 20-seater height, he will survive without any problems. No problem. Right, Fisk? I said with a smile to my furry friend. You are you. Yeah. Look. Fisk purred happily and jumped into the crevice. Flying in free fall for about 10 meters, Fisk braked on a branch sticking out of a rock, after which he jumped off another rock and went down like an assassin without any problems. Ta-da! And Fisk shouted enthusiastically, throwing his hands up. Poseur! Not bad. Can you do that? I shouted, after which I stood with my back to the crack and just jumped down, my back forward and not even intending to do anything. Stop! I heard Wes scream, who was horrified by my tricks. Boom! Key, but I didn't think about the dust, I said quite calmly, climbing out of the small crater that I left with my body. I didn't even turn into an alien, and just trusted my own protection, relying on a small boost from the tattoo. Whoa! Fisk showing me the thumbs up. He obviously liked the way I smacked. Well, what can I say, sometimes I want to show off. Are you okay? Mr. Green asked worriedly, leaning forward and trying to examine my condition. Don't worry, Wes. For him, this is just a trifle. I heard the voice of Max, who did not worry about me at all. And what would? He knows that I can survive much more dangerous things. But how is he? Wes asked in shock, who had previously considered me an ordinary teenager. Apparently, the fact that I cured Kai somehow slipped out of his mind. Long story, let's go down faster. That wolf could hear the noise, said Max, putting on a harness. But I didn't think that the wolf could hear me. That's what the show-off brings to. WOOO. And here is the wolf, gave a voice. I said, looking in the direction from where the wolf howl sounded. When the old men's and Doc came down, we all went on, making our way through a narrow canyon. After about half a kilometer of the way, the canyon ended, and we came to a free plateau, which turned into a very deep crater, at the bottom of which could hear the noise of welding. From time to time, Loboan could also be heard howling, who seemed to be unhappy about something. Realizing that we had found our target, we all ducked and quietly began to creep to the edge of the plateau, where we saw the wolf himself, who was constructing something from the stolen devices. As soon as Wes saw the shape of what he thought was Yin el-Dushi, he immediately pointed a shotgun at him, and with real bullets. True, this was of little use, because Loboan heard us sneaking up behind him. He really is a wolf, so he has a wolf here. As Wes prepared to pull the trigger, Loboan spun around and lunged at Mr. Green, wanting to tear him apart with his sharp claws. Before Loboan could touch Wes, a blue barrier appeared in front of the alien wolf and took the full blow. While Grandpa helped Wes get up and out of the danger zone, Loboan was rushed by Fisk, who decided to engage the wolf in close combat while Doc prepared to attack. Quickly donning his power gauntlet, Doc fired a wave of energy at the wolf that pushed him off the plateau and he went into the crater. Finally! I exclaimed as I noticed that my Omnitrix had finished processing the new DNA sample. I have long wanted to try to fight some kind of alien in the form of the same alien, to compare how well I will perform in battle if the enemy has the same powers. I think this is a good chance to experiment. We made it on time, and Loboan clearly hasn't finished the device he's been building from stolen junk yet, so the plan to be quiet can be dropped, and it's time to have some fun. I'm done with him. I quickly shouted and also jumped into the crater, turning into the Blitzwolfer in the air, which was no different from the Loboan in front of me, except for the blue eyes, the symbol of the Omnitrix, and clothes. WOOO. After recovering from the fall, and noticing that I was flying towards him, Loboan decided to attack me with his sonic howl. I decided to respond in kind, and opening my mouth into 4 parts, I fired a blue sonic howl, straight at Loboan's attack. My attack was clearly stronger, and realizing that he was losing, the wolf decided to run away. Only who will allow him? When the wolf tried to jump onto the crater wall to escape, I jumped on him myself and dragged him into close combat, which was no different from the fight of the yard dogs. That is, cruel, I would even say bestial, and without any technique. It just so happens that the best way to fight in this form is to become like a beast, trust your instincts and attack your opponent, wanting to tear him to pieces with your fangs. Having received, during our collision, several bites and scratches, which, however, have already healed, I answered my opponent in the same way. Unlike me, Loboan could not heal instantly, the fact that, realizing that he was losing here, the wolf tried to escape again, but I again prevented him by attacking him with a sonic howl. Paradoxically, the most effective way to deal with Loboan is to use a sonic attack. Like all dogs, Loboans have very sensitive hearing and loud noises cause them great pain. And despite the fact that this race has the ability to use a loud high-power sonic attack, they are not immune to such attacks directed at them. Apparently, his own howl does not affect Loboan in any way, which cannot be said about other sources. Rara-un, stop. Please stop. Growled, and then my rival whined, pressing his ears back to protect himself from my howl. There is nothing strange that I was able to understand what he said. After all, I turned into a representative of the same race. In addition, Omnitrix has a universal translator, although it does not always work. In this case, it looks like he was able to translate Loboan's whining. But what surprised me was that he spoke, albeit in his own language. Previously, I checked his mind with telepathy and did not notice any intelligence, only animal instincts and a goal that he had to fulfill at any cost. But now, I feel in his mind self-awareness, and in no way inferior to a person. And now, he felt fear and pain. In addition, his previously glowing purple eyes changed their color to brown, and a pupil appeared that was not there before. Something strange is going on here. So you're intelligent? I asked in surprise as I stopped using the sonic howl and tied Loboan with magical ribbons. Lex, what happened in there? Shouted Grandpa, who was still on the plateau with Doc, Fisk, and Wes. I neutralized Loboan. But something is wrong with him, I said, after which, having picked up the wolf with the help of telekinesis, I took off and climbed to the plateau. So he's not Yenaldushi after all? Wes asked, still wanting to shoot the wolf with his shotgun. Yes, he's definitely an alien. You yourself saw how I copied his DNA with the help of the Omnitrix and turned into the same Yenaldushi, I said to Wes. Max told me about your watch, so I already knew I was wrong, said Mr. Green with a sigh, lowering his weapon. You already doubted that it wasn't Yenaldushi. Otherwise, you wouldn't have ignored the legends of your people and tried to kill a werewolf with a shotgun, said Max, who knew his friend very well. Yes, you are right. According to Navajo legends, Yenaldushi can be killed with a silver medallion sprinkled with drops of juice from a special cactus. But after what happened to Kai, I wanted to deal with this creature myself. The old-fashioned way. Looking angrily at the immobilized Loboan, Wes said, This is what revenge does to people. Even a man like Wes, who devoutly follows the traditions of his people, is ready to throw away everything on which he grew up, for the sake of revenge on the creature because of which his beloved granddaughter suffered. And even the fact that everything is fine with Kai now does not lessen his desire to kill Loboan. He is now stopped only by the remnants of his honor and unwillingness to kill an immobilized enemy. Well, Max, of course, is also trying to calm his friend. Okay, we caught this alien werewolf, but now what? Doc said, voicing a good idea. Now, we'll talk, I said and looked into the eyes of Loboan, who looked at us with fear. It's time to find out the whole ins and outs of this story. Chapter 120, 119. Veilit. patrasteriskien.com/sekel11. Check out my patrasteriskien if you want to get a few chapters in advance. Check out my side work One Piece, Nemo's Golden Lottery http URL. So, let's talk. Do you understand me? I asked, sitting down next to the bound Loboan. Rawr. Still afraid of me, but nevertheless willing to cooperate, because he understood that I was not going to harm him, nodded his head and growled Loboan. Good. But you can't speak my language, right? I asked for confirmation. Rawr. Loboan growled again in agreement. Lex, look, maybe he has a universal translator. It is commonly used by all the inhabitants of the galaxy when they travel to other planets. Max said, throwing a good idea. Okay. I answered Max, and then turned to Loboan again. Don't worry, I won't hurt you, I'll just look for in translator. You do not mind? After receiving a nod of approval from the alien werewolf, I leaned closer and began to inspect the hair of the naked Loboan. Pretty quickly, I was able to feel a small metal device in the alien's mane that was attached to the back of the left ear. Found. AI, I said and unhooked the device from the wolf, but this thing shocked me. Looks like it's broken. Doc said the obvious thing, looking at the universal translator sparkling with purple electricity. Can you fix it? Asked Grandfather, who was also already interested to know what all the boron cheese was about. I can, but it would be better if I create a new one. I don't like the way this thing behaves. This electricity is weird. I said, eyeing the device suspiciously. I felt a lot of energy in this lightning, but somehow wrong, I would even say dark. Although, what else to expect from a device that came from a planet of monsters? Before this alien appeared, purple lightning began to strike the ground. With one of these lightnings, the alien also arrived. At first I thought it was a manifestation of Yenaldushi's magical powers, but it looks like something else is involved. Wes said, who seemed to have more or less calmed down now. At least he doesn't want to shoot the wolf anymore. Although, this is difficult to do when the one you want to kill looks at you with great fear and pleading in his eyes. Then we'll find out now. I said and turned into a gray matter. Having quickly researched the translator and understood how it works, I got the leftovers from Vilgax's drones and quickly built a new translation device. Ever since the interior space of my spatial storage has grown tenfold, I've started carrying all the leftovers from Vilgax's army with me so that I always have resources on hand that might come in handy to create anything. That's how it is now. Although, my reserves are slowly depleted, and soon there will be nothing left of the former army of drones. Everything is ready. I said, and becoming a man, I attached a new universal translator to Loboan's ear. Now can you speak our language? Doc asked, ahead of me. Still, as a scientist, he is curious about all this and I think he does not mind a little study of the alien, who seemed to have descended from the pages of werewolf legends. Rav. Yes, I think I can, woof. Loboan uttered uncertainly, barking at the end. Maybe the translator is not quite right? Although, it doesn't matter, the main thing is that we can have a constructive dialogue. So, why don't you start telling everything from the very beginning? What is your name? I asked amiably, trying to earn the werewolf's trust. My name is Veilit, sir, Waff. I am from the Luna Lobo in the Anner system. But now, my entire race lives on Anner Trancel, under the yoke of the High Ectolord, the ruler of the entire Anner system, woof. Voluntarily began to tell, as it now turned out, Veilit. You're talking about ZS Scare, aren't you? I asked for the sake of form, trying to ignore the funny sounds the wolf was making. How do you know? It seemed to me that outside the Anner system, no one knew what was going on there, GAF. Veilit asked in surprise, for some reason starting to wag his tail. Long story. So, let's get back to the topic. For what reason did you come to Earth? I asked. A few years ago, the High Ectolord left home and went in search of a secret weapon that would help him take over the rest of the universe, as he did with the Anner system. The Lord left his faithful assistant Dr. Victor Stein to manage the system, who also had to wait for a signal from the Ectolord, which he would send to Anner Transel when he got to the weapon, WAF. Once signaled, Dr. Victor was to begin preparations for a plan to darken the planet and cut it off from access to the sun, the Ectonurite's only weakness. Without sunlight, the Ectolord would have easily taken over the planet, and after that he would have continued to conquer the universe, woof. Violet said gloomily, while clearly not wanting such a prospect too much. And you're the first step in this plan? Grandfather guessed, glancing at the Omnitrix. It's embarrassing to admit, but yes. Violet said, lowering his head and tail, forgetting to add his woof. Shouldn't you be glad you're helping your lord take over other planets? Doc asked, to which we all looked at him strangely. What? This is usually the case in alien invasion films. Doc justified. No, I'm not happy that the Ectolord is trying to take over other planets. On the contrary, I am against it. Violet said seriously, again forgetting his woof. So you are a revolutionary. I guessed. This is true. Previously, all the races of my system were subjugated by the Vladet race. We lived like cattle and were food for these creatures, Raf. In the end, we all rebelled and exterminated the Vladats, and at the head of the revolutionary army were ZS Scare and Dr. Victor. They promised that having got rid of the Vladats, we will start a new life, and we will no longer have to obey anyone, but, in the end, Violet said, which caused pity from the rest of the listeners, and now all their wariness towards him disappeared. Fisk even began to sob again. This ZS Scare took over the vacant seat and subjugated the system along with its inhabitants. Wes finished, no longer angry for the trouble Violet had caused. Raf. Yes, you are right. I was on the front line fighting against the Vladats and thought I was fighting for freedom, but it turned out that I was just a pawn of ZS Scare. I myself cleared the way for him to take over our system, Raf. Roaring with anger, said Violet. Ararmor? And what happened next? Fisk purred, wiping his tears with my handkerchief, and Violet understood what he said. When I realized that ZS Scare wasn't going to keep his promises, I gathered a group of like-minded people, and we began to try to undermine his power. They staged sabotage, disrupted supplies, in general, interfered as best they could. We haven't accomplished much, but we've managed to thwart a few of ZS Scare's plans and helped a lot of the civilians. I also tried to contact other systems and ask for help, but nothing came of it, since Victor jammed all communication. When we learned that the Ectolord had left the planet, we became bolder and began to carry out more and more risky plans, which began to cause even more trouble, Raf. In the end, we decided to capture ZS Scare second in command, Dr. Victor, and attack the castle where he lived. Unfortunately, there was a traitor in our ranks and they knew about our arrival in advance, so the whole plan failed. Fortunately, we had an escape route, and while I held off the pursuers, all my comrades fled. But in the end I was caught and put in jail, Wolf Violet said sadly, lowering his ears. And what is the result? I asked with interest. A week ago, Victor received a signal and the coordinates of this planet from ZS Scare, and Victor began preparations for the blackout plan. In order to get to such a distant planet from the Anner system, Dr. Victor decided to use an experimental teleportation device that he himself had built. But in order for the teleporter to work stably and without interruption, need to install a beacon on the other side, which will help coordinate the teleporter, which guarantees a successful transfer. Prior to the installation of the beacon, there was an 80% chance that the device would malfunction and take you to a completely different place, and most likely to outer space or an uninhabited planet, which would end in death. Said Violet, again doing without woofs. Is this the lighthouse you built? Is that why you stole all that equipment? Max asked, pointing to the satellite dishes and other equipment that was still littered at the bottom of the crater. Yes. Violet confessed shamefacedly, again pressing his ears to his head. But why are you helping Victor prepare our planet for ZS Scare to take over? Are they going to do the same thing they did to your house? How can you help those with whom you have fought for so many years? Wes asked emotionally. Raph. I didn't have a choice. Violet shouted furiously. Does it have to do with how you behaved before? With your purple eyes? I asked. Woof. Yes. Violet answered, a little calming down, after which he continued the story. As I said, without a beacon on the other side, teleportation using Victor's teleport has huge risks. Therefore, Victor decided to use someone who was not sorry, whose death does not matter. And as you know, he decided to use me, imprisoned revolutionary. Did he blackmail you? Max asked, hearing something in Violet's tone. Yes. Victor threatened my son, Scout. Raph. Before attacking Victor's castle, I made sure my family was safe in case something went wrong. But when Victor came to me, he promised that if I did not agree to go to Earth, he would do everything possible to find my son. He promised that he would kill my boy in front of my eyes. I just couldn't risk my son, so I agreed. Said Violet, causing us even greater understanding, because any parent would agree to such a thing, for the sake of their child. But that doesn't explain why you acted like a beast before I brought you to your senses with the sonic howl. I said. Although I knew that I risked going to the wrong place and even dying, I thought that this is a good chance to ask for help from some law enforcement agencies of the galaxy and get support from them in the liberation of their homeland. Apparently, Victor realized that I was up to something, so he made sure that I would definitely follow the plan. He did something to me, RRRF. With the help of some kind of machine, he awakened my animal instincts and locked my mind, and then programmed the beast to follow the plan thoroughly. I had absolutely no control over myself. I tried to overcome the program, howled and growled, struggled inside the mind and tried to do at least something, but my body did not obey me, woof. Before you awakened me, turning into the same Loboan as me. Said Violet, whom I had long ago untied from the magical fetters and who was now looking at me with curiosity. So, you were lucky, and you were able to successfully get to Earth, and then your body itself began to build a beacon. What is the second phase of the plan? Grandpa asked. I do not know. Honestly, I do not know. I would very much like to help you, but you yourself understand that they did not trust me and Victor was not going to explain the whole plan to a simple suicide bomber. My task was to build a beacon. And then, most likely, I would just be thrown here so that I would not interfere, since then I am useless, woof. Violet said, shaking his head, setting me up for one thought. Maybe. Or maybe Victor made sure you shut up forever after you've completed your task. I said and examined the body of Violet with the help of X-ray vision. Do you think Dr. Victor could have done something to Violet's body? Doc asked, understanding my train of thought. Yeah. And I found it. Stay calm, it will be a little ticklish. I said, turning to Violet, and then turned into the big chill and put his hand into Loboan's neck. I tried to limit my freezing abilities so that physically Violet should not have suffered, which cannot be said about the mental state of our new acquaintance. Seeing the alien, who damnably resembled Ectoneurite in his appearance and abilities, Violet was very frightened and even wanted to attack me or run away, but he still restrained himself and stood calmly while I took out a foreign object from his neck. That's why I didn't turn into a ghost freak. I'm afraid Loboan would just go mad if he sees the Ectolord he hates so much. I don't think I could convince him that ZS Scare is harmless and under control. Although, I still wonder how he managed to send a signal to Victor, having been free for only a few seconds, after which hope quickly sealed him. Maybe, does he have some kind of ability that allows him to communicate with members of his race? If I'm not mistaken, ZS Scare has 2 nieces. Maybe their relationship helps to keep in touch at such a great distance. Although, this is just a theory. But it's quite working, after all, who knows what features such a strange race has. While I was thinking about such things, I took out a foreign object from Violet's neck without any problems and, becoming a human again, I showed it to everyone with the words, here. It looks like some kind of bomb. I think as soon as you sent a signal to Anner Trancel, Victor would blow you up to clean up all traces. Honestly, I'm not even surprised. It looks like Victor, Woof. Violet said calmly. So now that we know the whole story, what do you think we should do? I asked, turning to Max, Fisk, Wes and Doc for their opinion, although I have already decided everything for myself. Sorry. Before we continue our discussion, can you give me some clothes? And it's embarrassing for me to stand naked in front of you, Raph. Violet said awkwardly, covering up his personal belongings, which he still had, unlike what is shown in the animated series. Apparently, his inner beast preferred to run naked. Ruined such a tense moment. I said displeasedly and threw my spare clothes to Violet. Chapter 121, 120. Beacon. patrasteriskian.com/sekel11. Check out my Patrasteriskian if you want to get a few chapters in advance. Check out my side work One Piece, Nemo's Golden Lottery http URL. Lex, is that the ZS scare you were talking about? Who tried to take over your body? Grandfather asked me while Violet was trying to put on my pants, which were obviously too small for him. Besides, he had nowhere to put his tail. Raph. What? Have you met ZS Scare? Violet asked me in shock, having stopped trying to get dressed. Yeah. But don't worry, I disabled and sealed it. He won't be able to escape. Although, I'm surprised that at the last moment he was able to contact Victor. I said, reassuring both Violet and Wes and Doc, who were worried that ZS Scare's plan might work. Does this mean that all his plans have already been violated and Victor's actions do not make sense? Doc asked, pointing out the obvious. It seems to be so. But Victor himself and other subordinates of ZS Scare do not know about this, which means that they will continue to carry out the plan to darken the sun. And in fact, it can even be used. I replied. Are you thinking of using Victor's plan against him? Max asked, guessing the course of my thoughts. Yes. I think you will agree with me that sooner or later Victor himself will come to Earth to supervise how the preparations for the plan are going. Most likely, he will activate the final stage himself so that there are no problems. I said, remembering the canon. You want to set a trap for Victor? Wes asked, now angry at Victor himself. After all, he became the cause of all the troubles that occurred in his village. Still, everyone has already understood that Violet is just a victim and a pawn in someone else's game. Yes. Since I've already dealt with ZS Scare, it's worth taking care of his subordinates as well. I said with a grin. Are you going to fight Victor, Woof? Asked Balette, who while listening to our conversation, finally managed to put on his clothes, and no longer stood naked in front of us. He wants to deprive our planet of sunlight so that his Ecto-Lord can take over the Earth. Of course it must be stopped. This is personal to us. Doc responded expressively. Doc is right about that. And, in any case, from your story, we can understand that Victor is still a villain. He must be stopped. I said confidently. Besides, in this way we will help free the whole system from the oppression of the tyranny of the evil Ectoneurite. This is also a good thing. Max said with a smile, supporting me. You want to help my system, Raph? Even after what I did, Woof? Violet asked emotionally, at any moment, about to cry. How sensitive he is. After hearing your story, we simply cannot stay away. Max said with a smile. And you are not to blame for anything. You acted under duress. We'll severely blame you for what happened. Especially after what you've been through. Wes said sympathetically. How quickly, however, his mind changed. Although, it can be understood. After hearing the story of Violet, it is difficult to remain insensitive. Mr. Green is right. Violet, don't worry, we'll help you free the Anner system. I already made a start and got rid of ZS Scare, all that's left is to finish what I started. I said with a smile. Auf. Thank you. Sincerely said, wiping the tears that had come out. I think we managed to give him hope for a brighter future. I still love to do good deeds, after that there is a pleasant aftertaste. MRRR, everything will be fine. Fisk purred, patting Violet on the back for support. Honestly, you are very lucky to have met us. You met exactly those people who can help you. I said, taking out another handkerchief for today and passing it to Violet. PRRRF, why, woof? Asked Violet, blowing his nose into a handkerchief. Wes and I are former plumbers. This is a law enforcement organization that protects the peace in the galaxy. We will contact our old colleagues and they will send aid to the Anner system. Your people will soon be given their well-deserved freedom. Max said a little pathetically. Well, I'm kind of like a hero, so this is my job, save the worlds from dictators and oppressors. I said with a smile, and I thought to myself, although I do this more for selfish reasons. And Fisk and I are just happy to help you. Said Doc, who, as it were, does not concern him, but he is a good person, so he cannot pass by this. More. Fisk purred, nodding his head, confirming his father's words. Thanks, Woof, I don't know how to thank you. Violet said sincerely, pulling us all, from an overabundance of feelings, into a crushing embrace. Ha, too much. Wes said with difficulty, trying to escape from the clutches of the alien werewolf. Raf. Sorry. I did not want. Loboan said, embarrassed, letting us go. So, back to the topic. In order to catch Victor, we need to make sure he doesn't realize that his plan has already failed and that there's a trap waiting for him here. And this means that you, Violet, still have to finish building the beacon. I said, straightening my rumpled clothes. Are you sure, Woof? Violet asked uncertainly. Yes. This is the best way to lure Victor out and capture him. Once we've done that, you should be able to free the Anner system without too much trouble, thanks to the help of the plumbers and your comrades. I said confidently, and Wes and Max nodded at my words, as they agree with my plan. If you decide so, Raph, then I can finish the beacon without any problems. I already have almost all the necessary materials. Violet said. Okay, then let's go and show what you are building there. I want to explore this beacon. I asked. Rawr. Follow me. Violet growled in agreement and jumped back into the crater. Don't move, I'll help you down. I said, and, having picked up everyone with telekinesis, I lowered us down to Violet. If you could do that before, why did you jump off the cliff? I almost got a heart attack when I saw that you fell from a 20-meter height. Wes complained angrily. It's all Fisk's fault. I answered instantly. Ray? Me? Fisk asked with displeasure, not liking that I threw all the blame on him. Yes, you. You didn't have to show off in front of me. I said ruthlessly, although I was joking, of course. Mrar. So, do not quarrel. Grandfather interrupted Fisk's displeasure. MRF, Fisk purred displeasedly, turning away from me pointedly. Okay, I'm kidding. No offense. I apologized with a smile, noticing that Fisk instantly forgave me. Still, he's a good guy, albeit a cryptid. You have collected a lot. Doc said in surprise, looking at the heap of scrap metal lying at the bottom of the crater. Rawr. Victor planted the blueprint for the beacon in my mind, so my programmed body was collecting everything that might be useful. Violet said shyly. And even the carburetor from my RV, Grandpa said very annoyed, still angry that his bus was damaged and that Ashley's gift was taken away. Don't worry, Grandpa. Here he is. Safe and sound. I said, finding Ashley's gift in a pile of metal and putting it in my inventory. Fortunately, Violet did not use it. Thank God. Max said with relief. We're here, woof. I built a beacon in an underground cave. Said Balette and led us away from the crater, where there was a narrow entrance to the system of underground caves. Who would have thought that there is a whole underground labyrinth here? I wonder what kind of cryptids can live here. Doc said in surprise as we made our way through the cave. There used to be an active volcano in this area. Apparently, these caves were left from the time when the volcano erupted. Wes said. Then that explains why lava flows here. I said, pointing to the lava river to which we approached. That is why the beacon is installed here, Raf. It autonomously absorbs the heat that the volcano produces and runs on this energy. Violet said when we reached the lava lake, in the center of which there was a small island, on which the almost completed beacon stood. This is strange. I said, looking around the beacon, which looked quite ordinary and looked like a large satellite dish. Did you notice something? Max asked. It's a regular repeater that sends out a signal and connects to a transmitter on the other side. It is quite technological and above the level of Earth's technology, but I expected more. I said honestly. This is bad? Mr. Green asked. No, as Violet said, this beacon helps to coordinate two transmitters in order to stabilize movement using a teleporter. But, as I said, I expected more and thought that there would be some special technology here. I said a little disappointed. So should I keep building the beacon, Woof? Wallet asked. Yes, we need to lure Victor out anyway. I said. Okay. I only have an hour left to work. Although I'm missing a couple of details, Raf. When the body was controlled by the beast, Woof, it was going to attack the local radio center to get the materials that were in short supply. Said Violet, examining the lighthouse. Maybe you can handle it? I asked, pulling out all the materials I had with me. Rah! Yes, there is just that what I need. Violet said with a smile, taking several skeins of gladiator robots. Then finish your work. But before that, can you tell me what Victor's teleporter looks like? How does he work? I asked with interest. I haven't seen much, Raf, but it looks like Victor was using self-produced electricity that was amplified by resonant transformers. After that, these transformers pumped out a high voltage, which turned my whole body into lightning and transported me here, Woof. Just so that there are no mistakes and lightning is attracted to the Earth and a beacon is needed. Violet said, giving me an idea. Is that purple lightning bolt? Wes asked. Yes. Transformers literally shot mine at your planet and, fortunately, I hit the right place, Woof. Nodding his muzzle, said Violet. And then why did the flood appear? Wes asked again. Raf. From what I understand, this is caused by your atmosphere reacting to an energy source from my solar system. The Yanner system is very different from this one, and it seems that your planet is reacting negatively to lightning, which is created from the energy of Trancel. Woof. To be honest, the effects that purple lightning can produce are completely unpredictable. Said Violet, going up to the beacon and continuing its construction. Here's how, I said thoughtfully, remembering all the trouble purple lightning caused in the original series. Firstly, due to the purple lightning teleportation feedback, Ben's Omnitrix began to act up, which eventually led to the fact that when the werewolf appeared, he could not turn into Jaws to save Kai, and later he began to turn into Yeneldushi. Secondly, if I'm not mistaken, it was the purple lightning that caused Ben and Gwen to move into the virtual world of the game Sumo Slammers. At least I read it on a fandom site in a past life. And by the way, I have one planned for this event. And thirdly, because of the purple lightning, the meteorological robot went crazy, which almost destroyed Chicago. Now, I'm even interested in exploring this lightning, perhaps I will find a special use for it. I know how it will be possible to trace the appearance of Victor and his subordinates. I said when I finished my thoughts. Do you think you can trace the appearance of this lightning? Doc asked, understanding my train of thought. Yes. Considering the perturbations lightning causes, it will not be difficult to track it on satellites in orbit. I said, and then I took out my phone and said, Morgana. Understood. 1 second, I found it. This is a meteorological satellite reading from last night over the Navajo reservation. Quickly hacking into government satellites, Morgana replied, showing a picture of a real atmospheric storm caused by the appearance of lightning from Anner Transel. Fine. From now on, keep an eye on such readings and let me know when the results come in. I answered with a smile. Now, I will always know where ZS Scarce subordinates have appeared and I won't have to look for them myself or wait until I stumble upon them. Very comfortably. Maybe I should create my own reconnaissance network of satellites? Matt, I'll leave that for the future. As you command. Morgana said dutifully, pretending to be a simple AI, as always, since she does not like being heard by people other than me. Ready. Thanks to your details, I was able to finish faster. Said Violet, having completed the construction of the lighthouse. Fine. Then, activate it. I said confidently. Doc, Wes, Fisk, and Max nodded their trust in me. Loboan just nodded and pulled the lever. The beacon buzzed and then shone and sent a signal to Anner Transel. Now, it remains only to wait for the guests. And also, decide what to do with Violet. Chapter 122, 121. Cloth. After we made sure that the beacon was sending a signal, I left one of my reconnaissance drones, just in case, so that I could keep an eye on what was happening in the cave. Then, when we got out of the underground labyrinths, I took all the equipment stolen by Violet, and then we all went back to Doc's jeep together. While we were on our way to the Navajo village, we had time to discuss our next steps. In the end, we decided that Violet would stay with Wes until the whole situation was resolved. I hope this won't be a problem for Kai. For now, it would be better if Violet lay low and did not shine, and he would be much safer on the reservation. In addition, Wes will be able to contact the plumbers and request humanitarian aid for the Anner system. Now, we can only wait for the next guest from Anner Transel to appear, which, if I'm not mistaken, will be Cthulhu, also known as Mummy, a representative of the Tepnufan race. At the same time, our family will monitor the appearance and follow the actions of Victor's subordinates. And when the time comes to close the trap for him, we will call on the Green family, for whom this has almost become personal, and the Saturday family, who have expressed a desire to participate in this story to the end. Basically, that's what Zach and Drew said after we got back to camp and explained the whole story. Kai's reaction to the appearance of an alien werewolf in my clothes was predictable. She was very scared, but after the situation was clarified and Violet apologized for the trouble, Kai quickly forgave him, although the wariness remained. I spent the rest of the day rebuilding the Navajo village, fixing grandfather's RV, and recovering all the equipment Violet had stolen. I had to create several new satellite dishes, but thanks to the help of Doc, it turned out to be done very quickly. When evening came, we lit a big fire and had a small celebration in honor of our meeting and the fact that this story was over. At least for now. Drew thought this was a good chance to give Grandpa and me gifts for the birthdays she missed. I got a universal encyclopedia of cryptids, which Drew wrote herself, relying on her own experience, and Grandpa got a Hawaiian shirt of his favorite style, created from the wool of some Jamaican cryptid. After dinner, adults sat in their company and discussed their affairs, while drinking alcoholic beverages, and the girls, Zach, and his brothers and I gathered around Violet, who told us stories from his life, which he had very rich, considering that he is already 250 years old. In the end, I never got to take the time to see Zach how he handles the hand of Tzol Kalu, and I had little to no contact with Kai. At least it's good that she got along with Gwen and Ashley and seems to have moved on from recent events. July 22, 2010. It's a pity we didn't get to spend so much time with Kai and the Saturday family. Ashley said, resting her head on the table. You're right, Ashley, but they also have their own business and we could not distract them. In addition, we met with them very soon, said Grandfather quietly, who was now lying on the sofa with a wet rag on his head. He drank too much yesterday and is now suffering from a hangover. Yes, I know, it was just fun to get together with such a big group, Ashley said with a sigh. We've been on the road for a couple of hours already, and I had to get behind the wheel again, since Grandpa was not able to. When morning came, we all had breakfast together, and after discussing the plan for the last time, we parted in all directions. Wes has a lot of responsibilities as the head of the village, and now that the reservation is safe again, he needs to make sure that all the villagers who escaped earlier return home. In addition, he needs to somehow explain himself to them and come up with a plausible legend about what happened. And although the girls offered Kai to go with us, and Wes was not even against it, she still decided to stay and help in the reservation, and at the same time help Violet, who will live in a cave near the village, to stay, so as not to frighten the people. A friend of the Saturdays had some kind of problem and they went to help him, despite the objections of Zack, Fisk, and even Komodo, who did not want to leave us so quickly. Unfortunately, they didn't manage to move Drew to Pity, so they flew away in their airship, and I didn't even get to see how Zack's abilities enhanced by my gift work. As you can see, there was no need for us to stay on the reservation anymore, so, having packed our things, we set off on a trip. Our next destination, according to Grandfather's plan, was Los Angeles, more precisely Hollywood. By the way, if anyone is wondering if the animated series Super Alien Hero Buddy Adventures based on the aliens from the Omnitrix appeared, then the answer is no. Recently, Morgana has been keeping a very close eye on everything related to the Legion, and when she noticed that someone trying to get a patent on the images of Diamond Head for arms and Jet Ray, she quickly prevented this. In addition, on my orders, she ruined the life of this man and the one who gave him the idea to steal images of my aliens a little bit. It might be a little too much, but I won't let anyone take advantage of me. I'm here, saving the world, fighting villains, and some two bastards were going to use this as an advertisement for their shitty show. I might have allowed it if the cartoon itself was good, but they were going to make a cartoon for a children's audience that would make fun of my steps and my characters. I certainly didn't want to endure this. And now, Tim Dean and Kane North are in serious trouble with the IRS and the police. At the very least, their Hollywood careers are ruined. Perhaps they also receive a suspended sentence. The funny thing is that I did not tweak anything, and both had enough skeletons in their closets. All I did was take them out of there and show them to the world. However, it is easy to ruin someone's life if you have access to the information of every person in the world. I sound like a villain now. Although sometimes doing something bad is also fun. I thought involuntarily as I drove out onto the highway. Don't you think Nebula has grown a little? Gwen asked, knocking me out of my thoughts. Yes, you are right. She got a little bigger. A bit too fast, don't you think? Looking at the actively playing with a ball of thread, Nebula, said Ashley. Is it because of that chain I saw? Gwen asked, looking at me. I sighed a little doomed and began to talk about the familiar ritual. In the end, when I finished the story, as expected, Gwen and Ashley were eager to find familiars. So I knew this was how it would all end. I wonder who will have to accompany them in search of the perfect animal. And why did I even start a harem? I involuntarily thought, listening to Gwen and Ashley discuss which animals would suit them best, and if one of them wanted a regular kitten, no, give a wolf or another predator. Thanks. Kissing me on the cheek, Ashley said. When I automatically promised to help them, I still had no choice. Oh yes, I remember. With a huge smile, I thought. Okay, let's leave the search for the familiar for later. Let me tell you the story of our old friend. I said aloud, distracting the girls and starting the story about Gilbert. And Lex, stop at the nearest gas station. We need to buy medicine. Grandpa called after a few hours. What, it got really bad? I asked with a grin as I followed the sign to get to the gas station. I'm not in the mood for jokes right now, Erg. Grandfather said displeasedly, sitting up straight and showing his pale face. I'm not kidding. I sympathize. I brazenly lied, watching the suffering Max, who did everything possible so that he would not throw up now. Lex! Shouted Gwen, trying to help Max. What about me? And I'm nothing. That's it, we've arrived. I said with an innocent face and stopped the RV. With a speed unusual for his age, Grandfather jumped out of the bus and ran towards the toilet. Apparently he doesn't need medicine anymore. Looks like we're here for the long haul. Let's go stock up for a rainy day. I suggested, getting up from the driver's seat. Do you think Grandpa will be alright? Ashley asked worriedly. Nothing will happen to him. It's a common hangover. As a last resort, I can always heal him with a new alien. I said lightly, walking towards the store. If you could help Grandfather, why didn't you do it before? Gwen asked angrily. Nothing, it will be useful for him to suffer. Maybe he will understand that he is not old enough to drink so much. I said, a little sternly. My bad attitude to alcohol is to blame here. I cannot stand those who do not know the measure. Gwen said nothing to my words, and we silently continued to shop. When we returned to the bus and put all the products in their places, some kind of light show began over the table, and after a flash of pink light, a small box appeared with a note. It's from Hope, Ashley said, looking at the note. Looks like she's learned a new trick. I said calmly, not even surprised that Hope was able to send me a package, despite the fact that we are separated by more than 4,000 kilometers. I have already seen so much that such a manifestation of magic does not surprise me at all. What is there? Gwen asked curiously as I read the note. One of the things I asked Hope to research. I answered, and opening the box took out pieces of cloth. Is that the cloth you passed to Hope? Gwen asked in disbelief, and I can understand her. If earlier it was a torn piece of dirty, black cloth, which was so hard that it seemed as if it had been soaked in cement, now it is a soft and clean, ironed handkerchief, which is no different from the usual one. And what is it? Ashley asked, looking curiously at one of the artifacts confiscated from the Forever Knights. It's not written here. It just says that I will definitely like the result. I replied. And what to do with it? Gwen asked, pointing to the handkerchief I was holding. Eat it, I said hesitantly, after reading what was written several times, to make sure I didn't make a mistake. Eat? And how do you even? Ashley asked, but I interrupted her by turning into a wild mutt. That's how. This is logical. Ashley finished. Rough, I growled, and swallowed the handkerchief in one go. Well, how? Gwen asked, looking at me. Looks like nothing is happening. I said uncertainly, after I became human again. Maybe it was a joke? Ashley asked doubtfully. I don't know, but... Damn, I started to say, but I suddenly twisted, and I fell to my knees. Lex! Gwen screamed in fright, jumping up to me. All is well, it seems to be the way it should be, I said, feeling some unknown force in my stomach, which was preparing to burst out at any moment. Lex, your eyes! Ashley exclaimed fearfully. What is there? And I asked, not noticing any problems. Look, they've turned black. Gwen said, and gave me a mirror in which I saw that my eyes were filled with blackness and they began to look like demons from Supernatural. What the hell, I said, and then I noticed how black threads began to appear from the pores of my skin, which quickly folded into ribbons, and already they began to wrap me in some kind of cocoon. Lex! Was the last thing I heard before my body was consumed by the tapes and my vision was filled with darkness.